Okay. The Gimel Yud base. In what respect did they say that Bikurim are accounted the priest's property? In that he may buy with them bondmen, land, and non-kosher animals, and a creditor may take them for his debt, or a woman her ketubah as a Torah scroll. But Rabbi Huda says one may only give them to a chaver as a favor. The sages say one may give them to the men of the guard or divide them among themselves as with the holy things of the temple. Hermaphrodite is in some ways like men and in some ways like women, and in some ways like men and women, and in some ways like neither men nor women. How is he like men? He conveys uncleanliness with the white like men and dresses like men. And like men, he takes a wife, but is not taken as a wife. And his mother observes on his account the clean blood days like for male, and like men, he may not be alone with women, and like men, he has not maintained together with the daughters, and like men, he may not transgress the law of you shall not round, and neither shall you mar the corners of your beard, and you shall not defile yourself for the dead, and he's liable to all the commandments of the Torah like men. Right.
Okay. And now the converse case, Ketzad Shavad Anashim. How is the hermaphrodite similar in halacha to a woman? Mitame be'odim kanashim. So also, not in addition to becoming tame with white, any kind of semen-like emission, is also becomes tame from any blood-like emission, like a woman. Ve'eno misiached im ha'anashim kanashim, and he's not allowed to be in yichud with men. So he's got isurim on both sides. He cannot be in yichud with women,
Right.
cannot be in yichud with men. Okay, unless you're talking about close relatives, of course. Okay.
Yeah.
Ve'eno zokek liyibum kanashim, and if he has a brother who dies childless, then and he's the last surviving sibling, then the widow does not have to do even chalitza, and she is allowed to marry because a hermaphrodite doesn't even have an obligation to do chalitza just in case. It's just no obligation at all.
Right.
Okay. En is okay liyibum kanashim. Ve'eno cholek im abanim kanashim. Now, yesterday we spoke about the case if there's a small inheritance, then the girls get preference because they need to get sustenance,
Right.
living expenses until they get married. In which case the boys don't get anything. So if he tries to be a girl in that circumstance, the girls will say, "Excuse me, prove that you're a girl before you take mazonas. He's got to be like the boys and not get anything." And now this is the converse case where there's a large inheritance where the boys are gonna be the beneficiaries because they're going to take the lion's share while the girls just get living expenses. Okay. So he says, "Oh, I'm a boy then." And the boys say, "Excuse me, prove that you're a boy."
Right.
And so, I mean, at the very least, he'll be able to take the living expenses because he'll say, I'm either I'm a boy, in which case I have to get the full inheritance, or else I'm a girl, and at least give me mazonas. So in that case, he'll get the mazonas. But he doesn't get the full inheritance with his brothers. Okay, there are korbanos that kohanim, that male kohanim can eat, and their wives cannot eat. So all the kodshe kodshim, like a chatas, has to be eaten by male kohanim only. Okay, so in ochel kanashim. So similar halacha like women, if you have a hermaphrodite Kohen, he's not allowed to eat the kodshe kodshim. Ve'imo yosheves alav bedam tame kanashim. And when his mother gives birth, she has to observe a 14-day toma period after the birth, as opposed to the 7 after a boy. So that's like a girl. Upasol min ha'edos kanashim. He's not allowed to give any edos that a woman is not allowed to give.
Mm.
Okay. Ve'im niv al ba'avera. Nifsal min hatruma kanashim, and if he has a forbidden relationship, he's a child of a kohen, and he has a forbidden relationship with somebody, then he loses out on the right to eat truma, on permission to eat truma. So
Right.
there again, his halacha is like a woman. So again, it's always going to take the most machmir halacha of between man and woman.
I'm
Ketzad
surprised that he's able to serve. He's a Kohen, but surprised he's able to serve in the
not allowed
Beis
to serve.
Hamikdash.
No, he cannot serve.
He
No,
can
he
eat
doesn't.
there if he's a Kohen.
He can eat what he can eat. He can eat any kodshim that a female kohen is allowed to eat. So truma, allowed to
But he
eat.
can't do anything
The
of
Zerah
Kohen.
L'chaim and Zerah L'chaim, okay, but the key gifts that the Yisraelim have to give to the kohanim Those are things that he can eat. Even a female Kohen would be allowed to eat that, so he's also allowed to eat that. But
So someone wants to give him Bikurim, it's not a problem.
yeah, Bikurim is nichse Kohen. It's not it can be traded, and, as we just saw. So he's allowed to eat Bikurim. Hmm. Okay. Um, Ketzad shaveh la'anashim v'la'anashim. How is he similar to both men and women? Okay, well, these are halachas that apply to any human being. Chayvim al makaso v'kila laso ka'anashim v'chanashim. So if somebody had to strike him or to curse him, the penalties are the same as for any other human. V'hahorgo shogeg gole. Somebody who killed him by accident has to go into galus. Mazid nerag, and somebody who murdered him is executed. Ka'anashim v'chanashim, and that's similar to any other human being. Ve'imo mevia alav korban. When after his mother has given birth, she also has to give a korban yoledes, as any woman does for any child, like men and women. Ve'ochel bekodje hagvul ka'anashim v'chanashim, and he's allowed to eat kodje hagvul. That is, he's allowed to eat. This is what we were just talking about, like truma and trumas mas challah. So those are things that only a kohen is allowed to eat, but if male or female doesn't make a difference.
Yes.
Okay. Ka'anashim v'chanashim. V'nochel l'chol hanachalos ka'anashim v'chanashim. And he inherits all inheritances like a man and like a woman. Now that's a bit of a misleading statement. We've just said that he doesn't inherit like men and women. But what we're saying is, if this is, let's say, this hermaphrodite is an only child, then he
Okay.
will inherit from his parents. Yeah. So it's not
So,
like he doesn't lose out on the principle of inheritance. He just has to prove whether he's male or female in order to get the a bigger share of the inheritance, but he nonetheless is able to inherit. Okay. Ketzad eino shave lo la'anashim v'lo la'nashim. How is he dissimilar from all other people? Ein sorfin truma al tumas zivaso. He doesn't. If he does become tame as a zav, and he touches truma, the truma is only tame besafek. So therefore, you
uh,
cannot burn it. You cannot eat it. You cannot burn it. Ve'ein chayvin alav al bias mikdash. And if he became tame through one of these methods and he came into the mikdash, he's not chayav. He doesn't have to bring a korban for it because it's a safek. Ve'ein chayvin alav al bias mikdash v'lo ka'anashim v'lo chanashim. This is unlike men and women. Ve'ein nimkar be'eved ivri. Lo ka'anashim v'lo chanashim. So eved ivri is an interesting case because how does one become an eved ivri? And the halacha is different for a man or for a woman. A man becomes an eved ivri if he steals and he's caught and he has to pay back and he cannot pay back. So the court will sell him as an eved in order for him to pay back his debt. That is only for men. Okay, a woman, a girl, a father is entitled to give his daughter as an ama ivriya to another family in order to get to prepare her for marriage into that family. Okay.
right.
Now, if there's also the option that a person has of they can sell themselves into slavery, and that still exists. But in this case, in both of the cases that I mentioned, it's against their will. So the hermaphrodite cannot become a slave against his will, because you can't sell him into slavery because he might be a woman, and he can't, and his father can't give him into slavery because he might be a man. Okay. Ve'eno ne'erach lo ka'anashim v'hu lo ka'anashim. We actually just learned the Parashas Arach now in Bahar B'chokasai about the evaluation of a person of a male between such and such age groups and
Right. Right.
okay. And the hermaphrodite doesn't fit into any of those. So if somebody says erech ploni alai about a hermaphrodite, it's zero. There's no erech stipulated in the Torah, and therefore it's a zero. Ve'im amar hareini nazir shezeh lo ish v'lo isha. If he makes a neder of nazirus, and he says I'll take but he conditions it and says I'm taking a neder on condition that this person is neither a man nor a woman. I non-binary. Guess what?
Yeah.
Because we're machmir on vows of Naziris, and they say, okay, well,
No.
if there's a doubt, then we're going to make you into a Nazir anyway. Okay. However, In terms of the rest of the halachas, we always treat the hermaphrodite as if it is Safek man, Safek woman.
Right, right,
Rabbi Yossi comes and says on this, androgynous bria bifnei atzmahu. So Rabbi Yossi comes and says it's straight out here. If you want any sort of Talmudic basis for the non-binary people, here's Rabbi Yossi for you saying that an androgynous is an entity unto itself, not male, not female, but hermaphrodite. Okay. ולא יכלו חכמים להכריע עליו אם הוא איש או אישה, and therefore the chachamim could not categorize him as either a male or a female, and therefore it's a separate type of entity. Just all of the non-binary people, and most of what people call non-binary is basically mental illness, where people actually are male or female, but just have gender dysphoria or whatever, and cannot come to terms with the body that they were born into. But there are real cases of people who are hermaphrodite, and Rabbi Yossi is saying that this is actually a third gender. Haval, tumtum. Now the tumtum is a different case from the hermaphrodite. The hermaphrodite is one who exhibits both sexual characteristics, right. But a tumtum is the opposite, is one whose sexual characteristics are invisible, and you cannot tell if they're male or female. Enokain. This is a different situation. Pamim shehu ish, pamim shehu isha. So he's sometimes you'll cut open whatever membrane, or you'll do some investigation and find that this is a male. Sometimes you'll discover it's a female, but a tumtum is either a male or a female, even though his status is in Safek lahalacha. But there is an underlying reality of which one he is, as opposed to the androgynous. Okay. And here endeth Seder Zeraim Hadron Alach Teches Bikkurim Hadron Alach Seder Zeraim. And tomorrow we will start with Shabbos.
Shabbos. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Bikkurim.
I was thinking now, I missed out on an opportunity. I should have done a siyum at the engagement party.
Okay, no. All right, thank you. Bikkurim, base Aleph. For Truma and Bikkurim, one is
base.
Right?
Base.
Right, base. I have my hand on the thing. I'm sorry. Some apply to Meiser and Bikkurim, but not to Truma. My Meiser and Bikkurim must be brought to the place, require the declaration, and are forbidden to an onen. Reb Shimon permits, and they are liable to beer, but Reb Shimon exempts. And any quantity whatsoever is forbidden to be eaten in Yerushalayim. And what grows from them is forbidden to be eaten in Yerushalayim by non-priest or cattle. And Reb Shimon permits. These apply to Meiser and Bikkurim, but not to Truma. There are some that apply to Truma and Meiser, but not to Bikkurim. Truma and Meiser render forbidden the threshing floor, have a prescribed quantity, apply to all produce when the temple exists, and when the temple does not exist, to tenants, leases, sikron, and robbers. These apply to Truma and Meiser, but not to Bikkurim. And there are some that apply to Bikkurim, but not to Truma and Meiser. Bikkurim are acquired while attached to the ground, and a person may render his whole field Bikkurim, and he is responsible for them, and they require an offering, singing, waving, and spending the night. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Shani. Hey, Yud Aleph. According to all your commandments which you have commanded me. However, if he separated Meiser Sheni before Meiser Rishon, he cannot make the confession. I have not transgressed your commandments. I did not separate from one kind for another kind, nor from the plucked for the unplucked, or from the unplucked for the plucked, nor from the new for the old, nor from the old to the new. And I have not forgotten. I did not forget to bless you or mention your name over it. I have not eaten it of it in my mourning. However, if I did eat it in mourning, it cannot make the confession. Neither have I consumed any part of it when unclean. However, if he did separate from it when unclean, he cannot make the confession. Nor given of it for the dead. I have not brought it from a coffin or from shrouds for the dead, nor have given it to any other mourners. I have hearkened to the voice of the Lord my God. I have brought it to the chosen house. I have done according to all that you have commanded me. I rejoice and cause others to rejoice with me. Look down from the holy habitation from heaven. We have done what you imposed upon us. Do you also, Do you also, no, sorry.
No, you also should.
Yeah, you also what you have promised us. Look down from your holy habitation from heaven and bless your people Israel with sons and daughters in the land which you have given us with dew and rain with the offspring of cattle, as you swore to our fathers, a land flowing with milk and honey, that it might impart a flavor to the produce. Okay.
Okay.
And
Shvius.
yes. Okay. Base hay. One may oil unripe figs and pierce them until Rosh Hashanah. Unripe figs of the 6th year, which have gone to the 7th year, and the 7th year, which have gone to the 8th year, may neither be oiled nor pierced. But Yehuda says, where is the custom? Where the custom is to oil them, one may not oil them because it ranks as work. Where it is not custom to oil them, one may oil them. Reb Shimon permits concerning a tree because one may tend the tree. One might not plant, sink, or graft in the 6th year less than 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. If one did plant, sink, or graft, he must uproot it. But Yehuda says any grafting that has not taken root within 3 days will never strike root, and your Rossi and Reb Shimon say within 2 weeks. Rice, millet, poppy, and sesame which took root before Rosh Hashanah are tithe according to the previous year and are permitted in the 7th year. If not, they're forbidden in the 7th year and are tithe according to the following year. Okay. Yeah. What year are we in? What year are we in now?
We're in Para. Oh, what year are
No,
we?
what year?
We're in the 3rd year now.
That's what I thought. My wife and I were going back and forth about which year it was. Oh, okay. Para. Uh, okay. Yes, yes. All the seas are like a mikveh, as it is said, and the gathering mikveh of waters he called seas. These are the words of Rameh. The Yehuda says only the great sea is like a mikveh. It says seas only because it contains many kinds of seas. Rabbi Yossi says all the seeds can purify while flowing, but they are unfit for zavam and zimitzorim and for consecrating therefrom purification water. Smitten waters are invalid. These are considered to be smitten waters, waters that are salty or lukewarm. Waters that cease to flow are invalid. And these are waters that cease if they cease once in 7 years. Waters that cease during military campaigns and in years of drought are valid. Rabbi Yehuda disqualifies. The waters of the Karian River and the waters of the Puga River are disqualified because they are marsh waters. The waters of the Jordan and the waters of the Yarmuk River are invalid because they are mingled waters. These are mingled waters, one valid water source and one invalid water source that became intermixed. However, two valid water sources that became mixed are valid, and Yehuda disqualifies. Okay. So here. Okay. Test base. The following should not be taken down once they have gone up: that which has been kept overnight, or that which has become tame, or which has been taken out of the courtyard, or which has been slaughtered with intent for beyond its time or outside its place, or which disqualified people received, or through its blood. The Yehuda says the offering which was slaughtered at night, and whose blood spilled, or whose blood was taken beyond the curtains, if it was taken up, it must be taken down. Reb Shimon says it should not be taken down, for Reb Shimon would say any offering whose invalidation is in the holy accepts it, but if its invalidation was not in the holy does not accept it. The follower did not have the invalidations of the holy: an animal that committed an act of bestiality, an animal on which an act of bestiality was performed, an animal designated for idolatrous sacrifice, an animal which has been worshipped, a harlot's payment, a dog's exchange, a mixed breed, a terefa, an animal born by cesarean section, and blemished animals. The Mekiva validates in the case of blemished animals. Reb Hanana, the administrator of the Kohanim, says father would turn away blemished animals from the altar. Just as once they were brought up, are they not taken down? So too, once they were taken down, they may not be brought up. If any of them ascended to the top of the altar while alive, they should be taken down. And all which ascended to the top of the altar while alive should be taken down. If he slaughtered at the top of the altar, he may skin and dismember in its place.
Must, never mind, may.
There must.
And that's his punishment for doing something dumb. Is that he's now standing on top of the altar and he's got to do the skinning over there. That's not very convenient.
Okay. Okay. Yud Aleph Vav. A minor who exercised the right of refusal, a relative of the second degree, and an alonist are not entitled to a ketubah or yufrik, usfrik, or sustenance or whatnot articles. But if from the outset he married her knowing that she was an alonist, she is entitled to a ketubah. A widow married to a Kohen Gadol, a divorcee or a woman who had performed chalitza married to an ordinary Kohen, mamzeris, a Nisonite married to a regular Jew, and the daughter of a regular Jew married to a Nisonite or to a mamzer are entitled to a ketubah. Um, if one marries a woman and she stipulates with him that he support her daughter for 5 years, he is obligated to support her for 5 years. If she marries another man and she stipulates with him that he support her daughter for 5 years, he is still obligated to support her for 5 years. The first one shall not say, when she comes to me, I will support her. Rather, he must take her sustenance to the place where her mother is. Likewise, both of them shall not say, we will support her together. Rather, one must support her, and the other must give her the value of a sustenance. If she marries, the husband provides her with sustenance, and they give her the value of sustenance. If they die, their daughters are supported by
Hold on,
unencumbered
no, no,
property.
just a second. No, no. Oh, yeah, you carry on, carry on. Beg your pardon. Carry
Okay?
on.
If they die, the daughters are supported by unencumbered property, but she is supported even from assigned property, since she is like a creditor. The clever would write on the condition that I support your daughter for 5 years as long as you are with me. If a widow says, I do not wish to move from my husband's house, the heirs cannot say to her, go to your father's house and we will support you. Rather, they must support her in her husband's house and then give her a residence according to her honor. If she says, I do not wish to move from my father's house, the heirs must say to her, if you are not with us, if you are with us, you have sustenance. If you are not with us, you will have no sustenance. If she claims that it is because she is young and they are young, they must support her while she is in her father's house. Okay.
Okay, and we're done. All right.
Okay,
Have a
great.
good day.
Have a good day today. Enjoy, and I'll see